Hello everyone and welcome to this mini workshop about why teach grammar. The role of grammar is perhaps one of the most controversial issues in language teaching. In the early parts of the 20th century, grammar teaching formed an essential part of language instruction, and it was so important that other aspects of language learning were either ignored or downplayed. The argument was that if you knew the grammatical roles of the language, you would be able to use it for communication. This concept was strongly challenged in the early 1970s. Knowledge of the grammatical system of the language was only one of the many components of communicative competence. To be considered competent user of a language, one needs to know not only the rules of grammar, but also how the rules are used in real communication. In recent years, grammar teaching has regained its rightful place in the language curriculum. People now agree that grammar is too important to be ignored, and learners need a good knowledge of grammar to be competent users of their second language. There is now a general consensus that the issue is not whether or not we should teach grammar. This issue now centers on questions such as which grammar items learners need more. How do we teach grammar more effectively? Are the students best taught inductively or deductively? There are many arguments for putting grammar in the foreground in second language teaching. Here are 7 of them. The first one is the sentence machine argument. It is true that sometimes learners can acquire a great deal of vocabulary, but that doesn't mean that they are linguistically competent. One can memorize individual items such as words and phrases. However, only grammar provides the learners with the means to generate a potential number of original sentences. Then grammar is a kind of sentence machine. It is to say that the teaching of grammar offers the learners the means for potentially limitless linguistic creativity. On second place, we have the fine-tuning argument. While it is possible to get a lot of communication simply joining words or phrases together, there comes a point where me Tarzan, you Jane fails to deliver, both in terms of intelligibility and in terms of appropriacy. This is particularly the case of written language, which generally need to be more explicit than spoken language. The teaching of grammar serves as a corrective against the kind of ambiguity represented in outcomes where not only vocabulary is necessary, but also the accuracy and the message. The fossilization argument is the next argument that we're going to discuss in this mini workshop. We have to admit that there are highly motivated learners with a particular aptitude for language to achieve amazing level of proficiency without any formal study. However, this type of students reaches a language plateau beyond which it is very difficult to progress. To put it technically, their linguistic competence fossilizes. Research suggests that learners who receive no instruction seem to be at risk of fossilizing sooner than those who do receive instruction. The advanced organizing argument is the next one. Grammar instruction may have a delayed effect. Many students enrolled in formal language classes, where there was a heavy emphasis on grammar, when they have an opportunity to travel to an English-speaking country and interact naturally with native speakers, they are aware that certain features of the talk, certain grammatical items, seem to catch their attention. They noticed them. They later realized that those items were taught in their classes. The grammar teaching they had received previously had influenced their learning. It has acted as a kind of advanced organizer for their later acquisition of the language. The discrete item argument is the next argument that we're going to discuss today. A language, any language, is a gigantic, shapeless mass that presents an insuperable challenge for the learners. By tidying the language up and organizing it into neat categories, grammarians make language digestible. These categories, also called discrete items, are units of the system that are sufficiently narrowly defined to form the focus of a lesson or the focus of an exercise. For example, the present continuous, the definite article, possessive pronouns, etc. Now let's talk about the rule of law argument. As grammar is a system of learnable rules, transmission is its view of teaching and learning. Such a view is typically associated with the kind of institutionalized learning where rules, order, and discipline are highly valued. In this sort of situation, grammar offers the teacher a structured system that can be taught and tested in methodical steps. And the last but not the least is the learner expectations arguments. Many of our students come to language classes with fixed expectations, which may derive from previous experience of language learning. And their expectations that teaching will be grammar focused may stem from frustration experienced at trying to pick up a second language in a non-classroom setting, such as through self-study or through immersion in the target language culture. Such students enrolled in language classes specifically to ensure that the learning experience is made more efficient and systematic. The teacher who ignores this expectation by encouraging learners simply to experience language is likely to frustrate and alienate them. Now that we have seen all these arguments in favor of teaching grammar, I would like you to do the following activity to see how much you remember of these 7 arguments for grammar. I cordially invite you to match where possible the arguments presented here in this slide with the arguments that I presented in this mini workshop. I will give you some minutes for you to answer. Thank you for your work. Let me show you the answers. Thank you very much again. I hope you have liked this short presentation about the arguments for teaching grammar.